Good day, good love, good light, illuminators, way showers, masters of limitation, first contact specialists, physical and non-physical beings. Have I left anyone out?
all the multidimensional beings hanging out with us.
Welcome.
All around all that is.
Welcome. Welcome. I'm Wendy Wolf. This is Dave Yellen. And I bring to you Languages of Lights and also Open Contact TV. So if you've been with me for a little while, thank you so much for returning to my channel, Languages of Lights, where we talk about light languages, sing light languages, we explore our multidimensionality, what light language has to do with open contact, what multidimensionality has to do with open contact, what all of the things that we want to explore today, whether it's our celestial bodies. Happy full moon, everybody. This is March 28th, 2021. Happy full moon in Libra. And happy birthday, Aries, the fire sign Aries, as in Western astrology, I believe that it is. Happy Passover, everyone. Dave's Jewish. I'm not. So this is a wonderful exploration for me because I get to learn new things about my own multidimensionality. And so I've learned a lot of connections of my own in my own parallel realities. We talk a lot about parallel realities around here. We talk about how creation sort of works and exists and how it's the building blocks of it. Let's see, what else do? We channel all kinds of, I've been channeling the emissaries of the Light Collective, been channeling other beings for a while, Dave as well. So, and all of that has been opening up more and more for me lately too. So that's part of, actually Open Contact TV was Dave's, I should say, inspiration. And it was very interesting that one of the things that I've been exploring, I think in both of us have all of our lives, is what does spirituality have to do with science, have to do with opening contact to more of who we are and our spiritual side? What is all that is? What is our perception of God, of creation itself, our own connections to all of those things, and how is it that meditation comes into play, connecting with nature, earth, flowers, plants. How does that have anything to do with connecting with our ET friends, our hybrid children? The hybrid children are those that carry our human DNA, who will be coming to really live with us here, interact with us here on Earth. And so we talk a lot about that. So Languages of Lights has sort of also opened up this doorway to Open Contact TV. And one of the things that Dave and I have discovered is channeling both directions, that there's other beings out there who want to know more about us too, and those children and the other beings that will be visiting us here and working in, I should say, living among us. So I never know where to start. I'm always so excited. We have so many things to share with all of you today.
Let's start with the singing bowl.
So we've got our singing bowl here, and I wanted to say too, if you're new to my channel, hi. Thank you and welcome. If you want to know a little bit more about my journey, how it started for me, how I started speaking light languages, really how I started waking up, and what all of these, what sacred geometry, sacred circuitry, all these things have to do with my journey, my services, things that I help all of you with in opening contact with more of yourselves. A lot of it has to do with singing, voices, the voice, opening up our hearts. It has to do with the chakras. All of these things everything speaks a language of light, everything. And so that's one of the excitements I've had in sharing with all of you. So
you have thousands of videos on YouTube.
Thank you. I always forget to say that.
And check out languagesoflights.com, which talks a little bit about these things.
All of these things too. So thank you for joining us. So today, in honor of Happy Birthday Aries, in honor of the third day of Passover, correct? There's just
starting the third day,
and also the fact that this is where really the new year begins. So the sign of Aries this year began on the first day of Passover, correct? Mm-hmm. And so,
it marks the beginning of Passover coming. But what we're going to do is look at a lot of synchronicities.
Yes, lots.
and interesting breadcrumbs that we followed as we've been guided to follow our breadcrumbs about all these topics.
And this has been kind of a culmination of a few days. So,
and there's a lot of things we're going to try to throw in.
Yes, we're going
not necessarily
in any particular order, but we'll try to maintain some sense of order here. So, I kind of want to start just a little bit for a little singing bowl here and a little light language to connect us all with all that we are. Himaniaturu naha senahi niraku nayaha nimayashuruku nayahaliku Nayahe Mishaniasa Sibiloko Si Itasha Sumuri Hilakota Vahana Kalito Kabiashono Seveshe Tivisana Taia Itava Somosova Anonomaloko Vi Isha Sasaseto Kiavasha Miato. Blessings, everyone. Where would we like to begin? I'd like to first say happy birthday to Aries, the sign of the ram. And the ram has a lot to do with a lot of the synchronicities that have been coming into play. We happened to find this little guy just sitting in a box one day in the garage. And he's been sitting, been moved around the house actually a little bit since then. And I've realized that today we've got this little ram, the sign of Aries, and also comes into play with a lot of us historically, as well as with the story of also in celebration of the Christ consciousness, not just Passover, but the coming of the celebration also of Easter, of Jesus, how these stories intermingle in ways that we have never realized. I'm learning so much about having not really been brought up in any particular religious way in as far as scriptures and Bible. I mean, I know of the Bible, but what I'm learning too is how all of this has to do with today. What a lot of what was perceived then was really ET contact. A lot of what we've discovered, even with, if you're familiar with Bashar, channeled by Daryl Anka, that question has been posed many times about the Exodus, the passageway, ET's assistance in that, the Jewish people, DNA, how all of this relates, how all of it's all intermingled with open contact and what's happening with us, with ascension, with our own understanding of our own multidimensional DNA, the things that we were connected to that we never realized before. So it truly is this beautiful celebration of opening the heart. I just started my beautiful heart journal. I've been receiving some very interesting beings and entities coming to me. And so I started this journal today also by inspiration by Dave to remind me to write these things down because I forget. Day to day we do this work literally, and we look things up and we are inspired and we receive messages and information and we follow the breadcrumbs. And so I was inspired. So this is an inspiration for all of you to write things down the messages you receive, the more you awaken, the more information you're going to receive in your dream states, your awake states. This is a gift from Dave. It's got the heart on it. A lot of this was about open contact begins with opening your heart. It begins with opening your heart to the understanding that there is no division or separation between science and spirituality. It all is all one thing. The one is the all. The all is the one. One of the things that I appreciated about learning things through Dave and the blessings and the Torah and Hebrew is that is and has always been, and what was maybe missing for me was that idea that God is all that is, that there is this one being that wanted to see itself and understand itself and express itself, and then created reflections of itself from the beginning reflections all the way throughout to where we are today, whether we want to call it dimensions, our understanding of how all this is connected. How does one thing have to do with another, and what does the one, the all that we call God, what does that have to do with all of this and parallel realities? It has everything to do with it. So this is where we are so inspired with all of this information to bring with all of you. So one of them was to write them down. Another is to have fun.
Another important thing I think to mention is, as God is all that is, he's also part, and I say he, but God is part of all things, and and all things are comprised of God, and because God is the master of path of least resistance, God will give you his messages using the path of least resistance, and the path of least resistance can be opening up a book and seeing a message,
which is something we're going to share with you.
It could be a person walks up to you and tells you something that you don't know, and he's just a normal person, but you start to notice this is a message. And it could be by channeling, and for instance, hearing God in your head, and that sort of takes us into looking at the things in the Torah, the Bible, which includes also the New Testament, with the idea that all of these communications and all of these stories and all of this information is always God using the path of least resistance to deliver the message, to offer assistance, to help make the divine plan become reality. So I would invite everyone to think of that perspective a little bit when looking at things in the Bible, looking at things in other religious kinds of documents. And of course, even the people involved at the time might not have recognized that in that way. So we have a lot of things to talk about.
Yes, we do.
And
I wanted to show everybody this too. This beautiful this beautiful crystal ball that Dave has. This is a rose quartz. So this is very beautiful, very activating. So the full moon, happy full moon, everyone, and it's the pink moon. And so I wanted to wish everyone a happy, beautiful full moon. And so I wanted to show this to everybody. I know it's probably a little hard to see in this light, but it is absolutely just breathtaking.
And it is pink, which
it is pink.
The full moon is supposed to be pink.
It is, yes. And so it's the super moon, the second super moon of the year. So it's a pink moon, and it's in Libra. So it's this beautiful balance. I'm always reminded when I see pink of, and the Libra moon, meaning the time of balance, which is part of all of the part of these synchronicities, is I forgot what I was going to say about that. It had to do with the pink moon. Anyway, it'll circle back if it needs to. But and I was guided to the opening of the heart, and that really is what this all of this is all about opening our hearts to all of this and this understanding. And as Dave said too, sometimes for generations we stick to certain belief systems, but we're not moving into the idea that even the things that we perceive today in, say, 10 years are going to be completely different, even in 2 years. Really, we see the world in 2022 is very different. There was something more about the moon with that, but like I said, it's keeps coming back to me about the moon, but I'll come back to that later. But it has also to do with the idea that we have looked at the stars and have known that there's this connection between that was what I was going to say too, is the how we would have perceived things then, and how would we have described things then. Like even I have trouble describing now, writing down what I'm experiencing in words. And I think, what will someone think if they're reading this, say, in our linear time, say 200 or 300, 1,000 years from now? Even I'm having trouble describing what we're all experiencing and what I'm experiencing. So, I remember now, the pink. That was what it was. I'm reminded of when we see pink and the color pink, that it is the red and the crystal white together, creating the pink, and really the bringing together of the wholeness of all that we are. So when I think about the pink and the pink color and the pink chakra, today I was looking at all the colors today because so many of these other colors have come into play for me today. But that was one of the things I was reminded of about pink is that it is the combination of red and white, and yet it's this this beautiful coming together of all of that, and that this pink. I almost like to call it the God chakra color, because it's like this, and then the April birthstone for Aries is diamond, and we talked about aquamarine for March, which is still, Aries is still in March as well, but so it reminded me of the diamond, and then the beautiful red energy.
Well, so we don't practice this. What you're
no,
seeing
I'm just like,
what you're seeing
I'm kind of making it up as
our channeled information, but also synchronicities, and of course. And Wendy didn't. I have a piece of paper.
He wrote a bunch of notes that I have not seen. So
she has not seen this. But Aries is a fire sign and also represents diamonds.
That's right. Exactly. Diamonds.
And I did not tell you that. And I didn't tell you to say that.
And so it's...
But oddly, diamondy fire...
And fire is white. Oh, and diamonds are this compressed coal, right? So carbon. So it's like, and yet and what it takes to make a diamond, and yet we are often referred to as diamonds, as crystals, as these beings that are, if we can see ourselves, or all that is really is all this one apple, but all of us have a different perspective but we're all the same part of the same apple. But yet we all see it from our very unique perspective. I love this too because of the hexagons. It's very activating. So teachers are the teachers. So it reminds us all that really we are all connected to the one same, all that is expressing itself from a different facet.
So if you're feeling this high energy like we are, I wanted to note that Aries, which is the ram, is noted by a symbol that looks like two ram's horns.
Yes.
That is also the epsilon sign and represents the epsilon frequency.
Yes.
So you might be feeling some of that epsilon frequency.
Absolutely.
And it's also representative of the idea of abundance. And of course, a big synchronicity is that we've been discussing an awful lot and observing a lot of abundance-related events. And certainly the idea that abundance comes in many forms. And money is only a small form that it can come in. And the idea of money in our civilization, when you really start to think about it, is a pretty silly idea. And of course, because we've all decided that we would use money as a form of abundance, it's a form of abundance. But it's only one of many. And it just so happens that Aries represents abundance, which I didn't know about.
I didn't either until he's looking these things up.
And of course, we've been also talking a lot about lilies. And I found out that honeysuckle and tiger lilies are associated with Aries.
Ooh, I have a tiger's eye. Mm-hmm. Tiger lilies. Please get your picture. You have to show everyone. It's perfect. Oh my God, you guys. Oh my God.
My stargazer?
Yes, he is the most beautiful photograph. He's an excellent photographer, and you'll have to tell him the details. But this is the stargazer lily. It's in plastic, so it's a little. But look at the moon. It's a big print. And the beautiful pink stargazer lily against the black background. It's really. I'll have to take a photo, you guys, of this and show it to you. But a lot more went into this than you can imagine. But it made me think of that, and lilies, and right now even this. That the much of these ceremonies, like when I think of Easter, I think of lilies and Easter lilies. And so when you just said that about the lilies, there have been a lot of synchronicities with us with Lily, and even with the hybrid children, and how they use flower names on purpose to help us connect with them. And so Lily is also part of another story with some other characters in one of Daryl Anka's books, and with containing a character named Willa, and he happens to be channeling her this weekend in an event I just remembered in California this weekend. So that's a whole nother part of our synchronistic journey as well. And then the lilies and what they have to do with today. And what else did you have on the lilies?
Nothing more on the lilies, but the idea of Aries and the Christ consciousness, which you already mentioned. I think it would be appropriate to also do a little shout out to all the Christines and Christinas. And
I love you all so much.
Hello.
Hi, you guys. I can't.
So we can't tell you how many
Christines and Christinas, Christ consciousnesses
have shown up in our
I cannot tell you.
experience
so
and reality.
To all of you wonderful Christines and Christinas that I have been and met in the last few weeks and months recently. So I wanted to, because that is what I've been enveloped in, is this Christ consciousness. It has been crazy.
So if you want me to go down my list.
Certainly, because I'll probably just throw things out there here and there.
So I am supposed to tell you also, which had to do with Aries, the idea of this in the Christ consciousness, the term divinization of mankind. So is there anything particular that you want to say or bring through regarding that idea?
Well, that really is, I think what really is happening now is that we really are coming into understanding what divine actually means and what our divine selves actually mean, and what the diamond, the facet of all that is actually means, and how we, each and every one of us, and I say everything, it's hard for us to imagine everything in creation. It's hard for us to imagine everything that's ever been created, and all of creation is connected and is within each of it. It's all
intertwined.
Like I will say, when I'm receiving these messages, and even today, some more information, clarity came through about a being that's been coming to me for the last several days, and I've been discerning and asking questions after questions about, what this energy is. And it really is about this divination of that we're all literally seeing our divine selves, and how we really are each a divine representation and reflection of that. And even when I first started channeling, and the Elohim came to me and said, we are Iliana, the reflection, the first reflection of source light, and this and we also are part of the representation of the emissaries of the light collective. And these are really just very broad names that we as humans need, I think, to understand what, when we're literally receiving information from what is the beautiful open stream of information of consciousness. We're looking for identifications and names, and yet there are, I guess, what you want to call first reflections, and that is how they presented themselves to me, the Elohim, the angelics. And so, but yet understanding that every single thing in creation is a divine reflection of source, and that even as I'm thinking about Ranger, my dog that was in all of my videos from the beginning of my channel, and he transitioned the day after Christmas, which was interesting because we're talking about Christ and Christ consciousness as well. And it was like I could tell on Christmas, but the day after, but yet he come, as I still talk to him now, after him having made his transition, and he says to me, even when the bird is singing, when the wind is blowing, and it's like I hear the words, but it's more of a feeling. But it's like when I miss him, it's that feeling of love reflected back to me. And he says to me, there's nothing I'm not in, because I am a part of all that I am, and all that is a part of all that is. And there's nothing that I'm not a part of and that you are not a part of. That, I feel, is what our the understanding of our own divination is, and bringing the divine energy, if we want to call it that, opening up our divine energy, opening up contact with the divine within us, in order to experience these multifaceted, multidimensional parts of ourselves in a way we never have before, and understanding what these experiences that I'm having and Dave's having, and these threads and these breadcrumbs, and what does this have to do with ETs, and what do the ETs have to do with the first the Old Testament, and all how it's all related. That, I feel, is what this Christ consciousness is about. And as I'm meeting all these Christines, and I'm reminded more and more that we are literally carrying this beautiful diamond light, white, bright, I want to say air of divination. And what Dave was talking about, the monetary system, if we want to come back to it from a physical manifestation standpoint, when we come into our divine selves, we begin to understand that only the powerful and the divine can create a form of exchange that we've all just arbitrarily decided to agree to. And so we can also agree that that's no longer necessary, and that what if the value was just you? And so that's part of what we've been in our experience as well. So it kind of goes a lot of dimensions here, back and forth, and what does one have to do with the other?
So, of course, being Passover, part of the ceremony of Passover,
yes,
is talking about the Passover story.
Yes.
And as we started talking about the Passover story, we had a lot of questions about the things that aren't in the story, and why they talk about certain things and how things are connected. And this is, I guess, my point of view and opinion at the moment. But it ties things in together. So I'm going to look at my notes and make a couple comments.
Go ahead.
And then Wendy, you chime
No,
in.
you just carry on.
So, in the Bible, God speaks to Abraham. And as part of the story of Abraham, at that time, it was normal for sacrifices to occur. And not necessarily animal sacrifices, but sacrifices of all kinds. And part of the story is Abraham was told to sacrifice his firstborn and only son for God. And when he went to do it, he was interrupted by an angel who told him not to do it, that it was just a test to see if you would be faithful in your belief that the information he was receiving was true. So at that time, he felt that he wanted to make an offering, and he just, in the story, there just happened to be a ram right there, and so the ram was sacrificed. And that's the beginning of a long story, but it's also notable to say that in many of the biblical accounts of sacrifices being given, you could easily imagine the idea that an ET UFO, visible or not visible, was present, and because the Bible talks about a beam of light coming down and rising the sacrifice into the sky.
Yes.
So that sounds a lot like what you would imagine a lot of these farm animal abductions might have looked like. And it just so happens that the ram is a commonly used animal for DNA testing and pineal gland related things. Mm-hmm. So just like the cow.
Yes.
And a number of other animals.
It
does seem unusual to see in the Bible that we're now talking about, theoretically, ETs coming to get DNA from the earth to help with various things, because we don't really know the whole story about that. But we do know that that type of thing was occurring for also the idea of the hybrid races and the hybrid children.
And that's what we learned through Bashar. One of the questions was that used for, it was discovered that there was a bovine serum that was necessary as some sort of a carrier for the DNA, for galactic DNA for the hybrid for us.
So
creating humans.
Now, keeping that in mind, and keeping in mind the idea that God appears in many forms, and you might have heard that again before, but there's also 72 names of God that have been identified. Yael is one of them.
Yael is one of them.
So
we were wait, what?
So now we move to the Passover story, which also, happens to be the Last Supper of Jesus, and that he was participating in. But in the Passover story, they use ram's blood to signify who the Israel people were, to be spared from one of the plagues where it's called killing of the firstborn, where all the Egyptian firstborn sons were found dead shortly thereafter. And what I believe that signifies is that in the story of Abraham, one of the things that God had promised him after the story of him doing the sacrifice and all that God promised Abraham to bring humanity to the stars. He talked about the stars in the sky, and to be as many as the grains of sand. So that sort of sounds a lot like the idea of assisting in helping bring the future versions of us and all the ETs toward the idea of open contact and meeting in person, perhaps, the IL and the hybrid children, which is really what it seems like all of this is turning out to be about. Well, the
story of the parting of the seas,
so
the burning bush.
So in the Bible, it talks about the Jewish people being led by a pillar of clouds during the day and a pillar of fire at night, which many people seem to think is a good description of a UFO. So who is in the UFO? But I do want to also say that in the story of Passover, Moses has a communication from God who could have been any of the representations of God. So he was specifically told that it was the same God that spoke to Abraham and that took part in the things from his forefather Abraham. And I think you agree with me as best as we can, because we're making all this up.
We know we don't know what we don't know, but
but the idea of using the ram's blood is sort of a permission slip to sort of renew the intention of the Israelite people to continue on an accelerated path of ascension and enlightenment. And by using the same ram's blood that was used in Abraham's sacrifice, that was a pretty strong permission slip, because as the Bible says, the households needed to have the ram's blood on their doorposts in order for them to survive.
Correct.
And the details of how that happened, and I'm not sure exactly how I feel about how the Bible depicts it, because we always know that there's distortions
and interpretations,
and points of view, and of course all of this happened in Moses' time when parts of the Bible were being written. So a lot of these things are first-person accounts, but we also know that first-person accounts can differ widely from person to person.
And actually, we even know that there's people where two people can look up in the sky and one person can see the craft and one cannot.
So we know that belief systems and filters that we have as part of our personality determines how we perceive things. So, and anyone who is a lawyer or is familiar with law and legal proceedings knows that you could have three witnesses and they all have different stories. So how do you tell what the facts are? And the bottom line is, for each person, those are the facts, and they could be completely different.
And this is the Master Mystery School. So this is whether it's the crystal skulls, whether it's these understandings. We know through channelings that there was ET assistance going on, and it was necessary for components of those people were necessary. What we believe is for the building blocks for the creating the new realities and the new versions of the humans that we want to be, the higher dimensional, more divine beings, and that was happening. And yet how were they able to, as Dave said, interpret it and then write that down in the understandings and the vocabulary that they had? And even I have difficulty expressing in my own limited vocabulary, even channeling. It's wrapping my mind really around and interpreting what they're saying to me, because it really is just like a wave of information. It's not always just words, but yet, like these beings, I will hear definitive names, and so it is a little confusing sometimes.
Well, synchronistically, the next thing on my list is the idea of the term God in the Bible and the Torah. And I looked up the actual Hebrew Torah verses when God spoke with Moses for the first time. And there are a couple different terms that they use. And it's very clear. Now, the translation, which I looked up several different sources, typically always just says God. And they sort of replace the different representations of God with just God. But it says in Hebrew that the Elohim, who was the entity, let's just say, that spoke with both Abraham and Moses, and the Elohim isn't really the all that is God. The Elohim is I would say more of an angelic representation of God in a way that they could communicate to us. And of course, being the master of the path of least resistance and having divine plan for things, the term Elohim could represent an awful lot of things.
Yes, it could.
And as we said, Yael being one of them, because it's actually depicted as one of the Hebrew understood names of God. Yael is in there.
Very interesting.
But interesting also is that when the Elohim spoke with Moses for the first time, they said they represent the I am presence. And that I am presence is I am that I am. And it's written in Hebrew. So I'm translating it, word for word, as opposed to how I want people to read it. And Moses also said, well, when I go to my people, the children of Israel, who do I tell them sent me? And he said, tell them I am sent you. So we know today that that's pretty clear about what's going on there. So that the Elohim were representing all that is, and that's the specific words which then turned into the name, which in English, you could say Yehovah, like Jehovah, Jehovah, but as we're trying to sort of get to the bottom of things here in our learning and teaching and learning, we are starting to think that probably all the things in the Bible were pretty much the same kind of thing that we experience through our connections and
yes.
voices in our heads.
Yep.
And the channeling, and with the Sasani and the Ayel and the hybrid children and that whole group, but not limited to them at all. When it comes right down to it, they're all representatives of God, because everything is God, and God is in everything. And almost any channeling that you hear, sooner or later they're going to say that in some way.
And I was just thinking about a lot of channelers that do channel that idea, that being, whether it's named Jesus or Yeshua, however, you will also find many channels, and this has also been, I don't want to call it confirmed, but received through a variety of other channelers. It's that entity, energy that we even understand as Jesus, and and even the story of the crucifixion and the resurrection. All of that was merely also an explanation of that he was an ET. He was there to show us you are always, and so that is also part of the biblical story of that idea as well. And we're all beginning to understand now, right? We're multidimensional. Our body is in our consciousness. Our consciousness is not inside our body. So if we're creating an infinite number of beings from our oversoul alone, and I have an infinite number, and you've got an infinite number, and he's got an infinite number, and your higher self has an infinite number, and they have an infinite number. See why we can't even count, as he said, the grains of sand. We can't comprehend even how many grains of sand are in a handful. For us to even comprehend what infinite even means is incomprehensible.
So the only other thing really on my notes specifically is the idea of what is Israel. Because in the Bible, it does specifically say, Yeladim Israel, children of Israel. And even at the time, it specifically says Moses' people are the children of Israel. So what is Israel? Where did that come from? So there's some questions about that. Some references think the is represents the Isis energy, which is feminine. The Ra is the masculine sun energy. And Elohim, El is from Elohim, which the best description that I found is life force.
Yes, life force.
So that is the life force.
Yeah, and didn't you read that it was the Isis energy? I mean, it was from a specific, I think, wasn't that something you were reading about? And it was funny because the Isis, how many of us resonate with the Isis energy, the Ra energy, and then El. And when I think of El and Elohim, 11 elementals, elements, they all start with EL.
Most of the angels, I think. have L
have
in
that
their
at,
name.
or at the end.
Make
So
that L.
So I know we're getting a little long, and I may end up splitting this. I mean, not splitting it, but just ending it and maybe starting again. But one of the things that, since Dave mentioned it, and there was a lot of synchronicities I want to share with you guys about this book and this art book, but we are getting longer on time, and I think it would be more fun to maybe just start a different video and maybe kind of go into that and more of the card readings, which reminds me, yes, we have our King Solomon candle burning back here, and I wanted Dave to mention that too about, yes, the 72 names. Now, these are cards that we've never really used or pulled before. And so I was thinking about Beverly. Hey, Beverly, if you're watching, I was thinking about you with the Solomon cards. I would like Dave to pull a card, though, from the 72 names. If you wanted to shuffle them, now, a little bit about these decks. Now, Dave ordered these from Israel, and the woman that creates them, I can share the information. I've shared them a little bit in a different video a long time ago, but I'll put more information, because these are really some of the most amazing cards I've ever seen. And actually, it's the sun has been setting since we've been starting this video, and so it's getting a little darker in here. We don't have our big TV lights turned on here, but these cards are so beautiful and so intricate. And one of the things I wanted to mention. One day I was inspired, for those of you who know what the sacred circuitry is from Sirius that was brought to us through Daryl Anka, through Bashar. One day I was inspired to ask Dave to take the sacred circuitry. They're available all over the internet. We can you can just Google it, really. But you guys have probably seen me. I was going to have him hold it up, but it's in the other room. I was taking pictures of it. But I could post a picture on my website so you guys can see it too. But he created a document for me using the sacred symbols, and I had asked him to take the number from the symbol and translate that and the word that associated with it into Hebrew. And so he created a new document for me one day, which I'm sure, did you say you'd make available for people if they wanted to download it or whatever?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so we could put that file on my website for you guys to download. It's very activating. So from when I first met Dave, there was some connection that I understood with the Star of David, the tetrahedron, the 6-pointed star. It's got the 6 triangles. It's a hexagon in the middle. Divination and what the Merkaba represents and how it's all tied in to all of this. And so what I wanted to say quickly is that I've been connecting with a being, and they, by the name of Michaela, and I have not been able to discern, and I've been asking a lot of questions, which was what was funny, which was what I wanted to share with you guys, with the synchronicities about the things that I found as I was asking questions about Michaela. So I think I will just share that in a separate video, because it is a lot of fun and I want to share that with you guys too. So, but what I wanted to say was, since Dave brought it up, was the colors that I was receiving today were also this deep blue, which reminded me of Archangel Michael, and I mentioned that out loud. And that was very synchronistic with a lot of the things that I found in this book that I want to share with you guys. But so today, right before we started recording, I had been connecting so deeply with the elements and the elementals. And so something said to look up the meaning of the name Michaela. And I looked it up. And the spelling that I was given was Mikalah. And when I looked it up, Michaela, the meaning is, in Hebrew, it's a Hebrew name, female of Michael, and it means who is like God. And then it reminded me of the 72 names of God, because when I was asking the being, the energy, the entity, who are you? Who is this? Who am I connecting with? And they said to me, we are not one, we are the all. we are the I am. And so I wasn't really understanding what I was receiving. And so then when I finally looked up the name, I realized that's what they were trying to say to me, is that, we are just all that. We are not one thing. We are all things, and yet we are represented through these other ways and channels. And so along with the pink energy, I was getting this beautiful blue energy, and the beautiful full moon and the moonstone. So there's a lot more synchronicities, a few anyway, that came with how I discovered some with confirmations for me, and how you guys can use these fun things to help you confirm the things that you're receiving, because even I second guess. So I'm really excited to see what Dave's pulled, because he's chuckling. And
so this is really what happened. I'm not even joking. So the first card that I pulled that came out, that fell out, is Vav He Vav. And you could show it.
Here, I'll show it close up.
And I didn't notice it.
I don't know how well you guys can see it,
but the card is number 1.
Number 1. The 1 is the all, and the all are the 1.
And
these are so intricate.
It's the description
should we
is
turn
titled
on should
"Correcting."
we turn on the good lights? I'm sorry. Say it again.
Correcting the past. As what we're
okay.
Just
This is
about.
weird, because one of the things I was going to show you guys in this book of my synchronicities had to do with a painting, and it has to do with memories. Oh, that's better. It has to. It might be too shiny, but here, I'll see if that's any better. The lighting's kind of weird right now. The time, too. These cards are so beautifully intricate. Maybe I should take pictures and put them on my blog so you guys can see them better. So
the second card that came up, which it just sort of fell out, so I figured, okay, it must need to.
Oh, look how beautiful.
Is card number 36. Now there's 72 cards.
There's so many synchronicities.
This one is Mem Nun Dalet, turning darkness into light.
No way. The divine turning darkness into light. And look at the beautiful blue flowers. Blue, and the springtime flowers are coming up here in the northern hemisphere. And pink flowers. That's one of the reasons for the pink moon. Oh, worm. See? Yeah, I have to do a whole nother video, because I've got so many cards to pull for you guys. So it's part of my Aries reading, and my promise to myself to do a reading for every sign.
So interestingly, also I found, it didn't pop out, but I found the Yael card.
No way.
Okay, good. Maybe there's a picture. The picture might be valuable. It's card number 58, which is 13.
Oh, I was going to ask you that too about okay, so this one's number 36 and this one's number 1. Today equals 9. 36 equals 9. Today equals 9. Completion of an old cycle.
And
so does the full moon mean completion?
And Yael, which they like to say transformation.
What the heck? Is this guy flying on a chair?
Yeah.
He's flying on a chair.
And he's opening
a box.
So
wow.
One of the things that we learn from the Sasani and Bashar has to do with eliminating negative belief systems.
Yes.
This card, Yod Yod Lamed, releasing sediments from the past, which is really one of the main things that has to happen for open contact to occur.
And to understand that there is no past and there is no future. It's all right now. Everything's happening simultaneously right now.
So every moment you get to choose what state of being you want to be in and what you want to bring forward. And being the start of the new year in astrological
terms, and being spring, and we have our ritual candle burning back here. So Dave and I were talking a little bit, and I was guided right now to ask you guys this too. Well, no, he said, how much of these rituals and things do we need to bring into our new reality? How much of these things are really important? The pomp and circumstance, the rituals, the even the deep rooted practices with Passover and exploring these things about why they were done, how are they relevant today, are they still relevant today, what should be kept for the new blueprint reality. I was receiving information from the founders. So it's this idea about the beginning, the new building blocks of the new reality. And so much that I've learned.
Just doing some guided.
And there's just so many beautiful connections. And I have this opening of this Michaela for me has been a whole new experience in the ways that the confirmations have been coming. And even though they're playful and sometimes silly, sometimes you think they're nonsensical and this cannot actually be happening, yet even like the cards, how we cannot and transformation, I was just thinking about transformation. You can't deny that when these things turn up, and I'm always excited about those. Pick a card, any card. Okay. Oh, okay, you'll have to read it for me. I'm looking at to see what's on here that stands out, but it's these. What are those? They're little animals on the bottom. Here, I'm going to hold this up so you guys can see it. And then
what is it?
Maybe you can tell me here. Tell me what it is.
14.
14? Yes. 14.
There's all kinds of weird sacred
I know, there's so much.
And
these cards are so intricate, and I absolutely, there's so much going on these cards. There's messages upon messages and layers upon layers, and some of these cards have so many awesome symbols on them. They look just like a lot of the galactic symbols that I draw.
So I'm guessing that this is a card that's meant for all of us.
Of course.
This is the...
Of course. Oh, is this
is the King Solomon.
The King Solomon deck? Okay.
Initiative, action, transformation, upheaval, a change of trend. Things change radically. This is not done by you alone, but with external support, taking what exists and creating something new altogether. A complex situation that requires change, even if it's painful and accompanied by a certain loss.
Well, I would say that certainly signifies what we've been going through, what we're all going through now, and coming through this significant change and even transformation and loss and fire. You guys, fire. We've talked about this lately about how control burns and how the forest regrows after the fire, how it regenerates everything, and how we look at things as coming through the fire, right? And I'm a double fire sign myself, and so this strong fire energy, and even the ram. I'm thinking about the ram, that strength, and I even love the spirals of there. Mm-hmm. This is amazing. That's a beautiful card. See, I've had some weird.
So stuff is going through what looks like one of those old Play-Doh toys.
That's what
squeeze the
yeah,
Play-Doh
that's what it
through,
looks like. It's like they're creating
and they're
little.
making animals.
They're making animals
out of it.
Isn't that interesting? Okay, and just a few minutes ago we were talking about creating the blueprint reality. What do we want to bring with us? A perfect example. I'm very excited about using these cards, and what a perfect time to do these. Maybe we should pull one like every day for the rest of Passover. See, I'm putting you on the spot. It's only 8 days. Well, it's only a few days more. Because we should probably let these fine folks take a break, and because you know how much we love what we do and we're passionate about what we do. So, and this is a new beginning for us too, this Open Contact TV. So we've started a new YouTube channel as well called Open Contact TV. And one of the inspirations behind it was also to share, what does open contact mean to you guys? And what was your question? What was the main question that we wanted to discuss and have all of you come on Open Contact TV or send us comments?
How has your spiritual journey reflected the idea of open contact?
Or how
has
does
open
your
contact-
spiritual journey, it had something to do with you. I was so perfectly, I knew I should have written it down. See? Because I told him, but it was the way you said it, the question was, it had to do with, how
has open contact had anything to do with your spiritual?
Yes. What does it mean?
What does it mean to you?
What does it mean to you? What does your spiritual journey mean to you as far as open contact, and vice versa? They're mutually exclusive, yet it seems that we have to raise our vibration and releasing these limiting beliefs and becoming our divine selves before we can actually open fully to open contact with higher dimensional, interdimensional beings. So that is one of the things we wanted to explore on Open Contact TV is how has spirituality affected was not the word. He said it really well, so we'll.
Didn't we write it down somewhere?
Didn't we write that down somewhere?
What?
Okay.
Well, I couldn't pick one
So
because it was in the book.
Okay,
So
so
what number is that?
so now these are really tiny.
There's some in the book already.
Oh, that's because I was doing another reading and I must have left them in the book. So interesting. Cow. Does that look like a cow?
Yeah.
Okay. That looks like a cow.
It's a cow
skin jacket. Another blue flower. Crown.
The hay, number 9, independence and freedom.
And number 9, again, you guys, today equals 9. Independence and freedom is what the Passover story is all about. It is about freedom. That is what the story is all about. And then here we're talking about divination. And the cows, look at that. And even at the bottom.
In order to achieve what you desire, do not let anyone interfere in your decisions, limit you, or constrict your steps. Allow yourself full freedom to decide and implement.
Literally growing flowers. Putting a flower in a flower pot. And there's the green growth below. It's really hard to distinguish some of this. And the blue and the violet, lilacs. That was another thing, lilacs. The flowers that come up, especially in the spring in the northern hemisphere, that are coming up now and throughout the next few months. That springtime time between now and the summer solstice, have a very important frequency to promote open contact and to promote open contact with your own senses, but to promote open contact with other beings. One of the reasons we created these plants is for that reason. Hyacinths, very high vibration. Lilacs, very high vibration. The blues, we're talking about blue. Some of the other synchronicities I will share with you in the book. But even the blue on the back of these cards and around, I love this card. Look at that. Touching your own divination, really. But the blue around here, the colors of some spring bulbs that come up. And we live in South Florida, so we don't have the same spring bulbs that I did up north. But many of the blue flowers very few blue flowers in nature. So each of these things are significant. I've got these pens that, little tattoo pens by Bic, bought them on Amazon. But you just write on yourself, and they only last a couple of days. But this is one of the, and it was funny because as we were cleaning up, this blue one was laying on the floor. So, the blue energy, so this is another message for me from Michaela to say, we're on the right track here. And this is, what a perfect, it's so weird about the cow thing, that this guy would actually have a cow-looking jacket. That's just so weird. And then the new growth, and then the picking the flowers and the blue flowers. Forget-me-nots. That's another thing I was supposed to mention right now is forget-me-nots. Forget-me-not. Forget that I am that I am. Forget-me-not, meaning don't forget who you are. Don't forget who you are. Forget me not, that I am you and you are you are me, that we are the divine reflections. See, we love this stuff so much we could keep going on and on. And I'm going to point out in just one, it's going to be coming on 1 hour 11 minutes. And I think 111. I think that's a good place to close off today, you guys. So it's dark outside now. We have so much more to share. So thank you for joining us. We hope you come back for the rest of our, for the I don't even want to call it part 2 because it's really
all kinds of
more stuff that we want to share, more stuff about just expressing all of our synchronicities. Michaela, thanks all of you for being here today and seeing your beautiful divine diamond self.
And we do want to hear what you think about all the things that we're talking about.
We always do. And
obviously, a lot of the things that we talk about, people have wide variations of opinions and beliefs and perspectives, and we really truly want
like
to
hear them all, and we thank you guys for every comment and expression, and
it's all about the sharing.
It is sharing. So we love you so much. Please do share with us, and there's going to be more and more content going up on Open Contact TV. If you guys want to share your open contact experiences, whether it's opening contact with yourself, your heart, your multidimensionality, fractals of yourselves, what does open contact mean to you? What does spirituality have to do with any of that? We invite all of you to explore this with us. That's why we're doing this, because we're excited about it. So whether it's literal ET, have you had an ET contact? Have you seen a UFO? I haven't yet. So I'd like to hear about that.
So as you raise your vibration,
yes, that's true.
You're automatically opening yourself up to more of all that is, and that includes what represents themselves as ETs, higher
dimensionals,
beings,
interdimensionals,
so really by increasing your vibration, you are encouraging open contact. That's what's going to happen in one way or another. And I do want to mention one other quick thing.
Oh, yes, please do.
Connecting with nature.
Yes, that's been the biggest.
If you are interested in the idea of open contact, which starts with voices in your head, but can actually become these physical beings from other dimensions, worlds, realities, or just other planets that want to come visit.
And they have questions for you guys.
Part of what almost all of them will say in various means, including direct channeling, they'll only come if every energetic idea on Earth is in agreement.
Yes. Yes.
So when you connect with nature, think about the idea of what open contact means to you. So your connection with them is going to also tell them you're excited about open contact, because they get to choose too.
And as Bashar says, as open contact and first contact specialists, they do not just make contact with just the humanoids on the planet.
The trees, the flowers,
everything.
the water,
and they
the
said
rocks,
everything.
the elements.
Everything. All the elements. So, and elementals, everything involved in that. So, we really are, this really is the plant kingdom. It truly is. And what we fail to, I think, understand as humans is that we think that plants have the lower vibration of the two, but it's really the other way around. And we're raising our vibration to match the vibration of the higher dimensional plant kingdom. And so that's really what we're working toward, is becoming in tune and in harmony, so that we could hear all the species here on our planet. But we've got to begin with open contact with ourselves, with each other, our own fractals, our own diamond selves. All of it. Accept it, love it, embrace it. Open contact with all that you are. And until we all do that, we cannot facilitate open contact with other species and beings that are of a higher dimensional frequency. But as Dave said, as we engage with all this, we change the circuitry literally in our brains to become a new version of ourselves that is now residing on a version of Earth that is more in harmony with that which is our core vibration, the divine. So I think that's a great place to leave it. Thank you, my dear. Thank you for all your love and support and research. I just love having someone to help share all of this with me and share all of this with you. And we love when you guys share back with us. So
thank you all for your co-creation.
We love you. So much love. Nyata veshekila sesote ilaka la se naliala. Ikasho iita kashanase.